Hey everyone, we'll be starting soon. Let's give it 5 minutes. Hi everyone. So we'll just begin at 10:05. I think people are still joining. Okay guys, I have already shared my presentation link and my blog link in this showcase. I'll be using that presentation. I hope everybody is able to hear me. You can use the Q the group chat option. If you're not, okay, I thought this will be an interactive session, but I think I screwed something. So I'm not able to see you guys in the control room. Okay, I think people are still unable to hear me, but everything seems fine on my end. So, yep. Okay. Okay, guys. I think we're gonna start now. Okay, I'm just waiting for one Anuban. Probably he can hear me. Okay, Vivek, I think you are already there. If you're not able to hear me, you can just ping me on Facebook and let me know. Or you can use the Facebook, the Hangout chat. Okay, let's share my presentation. So this is my presentation actually. So let me do a full screen. Okay, so I just made a quick presentations of around 6 slides. So I wanted to capture the essence of the Hangout today. So I'll just play it. It's a sort of a video presentation. So here it goes. Okay, I think the video played for a bit, and what I wanted to really show is why to get started with PowerShell and Configuration Manager. So Configuration Manager, from whatever experience is a huge tool, right? And it has so many moving parts. The SCCM client or the Config Manager client, which gets deployed to the workstations, it itself is a beast. Like there are so many actions you can perform on it, and there are so many moving parts. So if you uh, learn PowerShell to automate your tasks, then it will be a great. Okay, okay, I think everyone can hear me. So if you can use PowerShell to automate the redundant tasks you do every day on a config manager console, like when a request comes in that a particular computer is not able to get the content from the DPs. So the first step you do is go ahead and look in the console which particular boundary does the that particular resource resides in. So I think for that kind of things, like the common tasks you all are already performing, you can probably leverage PowerShell. Okay, so moving on with this slide, I'll just begin with it. So when you start using Config Manager with PowerShell, there are essentially two ways to use it. The first one is using SMS provider, which is nothing but a WMAN layer on top of the the data SCCM database which is sitting there, and if you want to interact or do perform certain actions, is the intermediate layer which comes into play. You can script a lot of tasks using WMI provider, but as already seen, the WMI provider has been there in SCCM 2007 itself, but the config manager admins didn't give much importance to it because using WMI is very cryptic. To be very honest, it's very cryptic, and it's you'll fall at places where you might stumble and you'll have to ask for a constant help. But that's not the case with Config Manager 2012 anymore. So Config Manager 2012, starting with SP1, has got the official PowerShell support. So what do I mean by official PowerShell support is now there's a PowerShell module which ships in with the console. So wherever you install the console, you'll get a PowerShell module as well. So So essentially, mastering a new product boils down to learning mastering three commandlets. The first one is get help, which is used to view the help. The second one is get command, which is for the easy discoverability of commandlets. And third one is get member, which helps you in poking around and looking at the objects being returned to you. And of course, if the help is not updated, then the first one, the get help, becomes obsolete on your version on the system. So update help is the commandlet introduced in PowerShell version 3 because now we do not have an offline help. It's online and you have to sync it with the online source. So update help will go there and fetch the latest and the greatest help which is out there. So moving on. So you can load the config manager commandlets in three ways. You can directly, I'll be showing you this in a moment. So let the slides resume. Okay, and we'll be looking at how to manage, how to manage boundaries, collections, create a sample MSI application, and deploy it to the collections. Okay, so I think that is the slide. I've already shared that one. So let me go back. Okay, so I have my config manager server running over here. So this is my config manager server. So I talked about three ways of using PowerShell config manager commandlets. Right. The first way is you go at the top and you click on connect via Windows PowerShell. So in the earlier versions, before I think SCCM 2012 R2 CU3 or CU2, there used to be a warning if you are opening the console first time for the user. So it will give you a warning telling the module has been signed with this digital cert, which is not trusted by the system. So you have to go there and click on yes, I trust that particular cert, and then only the PowerShell commanders the console will get back to you. But that is not the case anymore because I had seen in TechNet people asking a lot of questions on that, and finally the config manager team decided to remove that. So now you don't get a prompt anymore, and if you get the prompt anymore, I already have a function snippet posted on my blog by Tore. So he shared that, and you can use that to remove that warning. So what it does is it goes there and trusts that particular cert. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So this is the first way you get all the commandlets exposed to you. And if you notice, if you do a get hyphen location, you are placed right at somewhere called dex, where dex is my site code. You can see at the top, I'm connected to dex. So that is my three-letter site code, and by default, it places me over there. So this is one of the ways. And the second one is you open a brand new PowerShell session. So let me close this one. You open an entire brand new one, and you use the command called import module. Now the problem with config manager PowerShell module is it's not located in one of the module paths. So what we have to do is, if you look at this, this is the module path where PowerShell goes there and looks for all the modules available. So if I do a get module minus list available, there'll be a lot of modules coming in, but you won't be able to see configuration manager over there. So list available will show you all the modules available on your system. So what it does, it goes on to all of these paths and look for the PowerShell modules over there. Okay, if you see, there are a lot of over there, but I don't see anything saying configuration manager. So that is the roadblock when you try ahead and try to import the module. So I already have a one-liner which I use for that. So there's actually an environment variable which is created when you install the config manager console on a machine, which is called SMS admin UI path. So we can in the one-liner, what we have done is we have used the command called split path inside sub expression, which is split it, and it will give you the till the bin part of the path, and then there is where the config manager.psd1, which is nothing but the PowerShell module resides for configuration manager. Let me do a verbose. Okay, sorry, verbose. You'll see that it's loading all the commands for me. Okay, so I'll put verbose preference as continue because I want everyone to see the verbose messages, and I don't want to type minus verbose every time. So, but the difference here is my current location doesn't change. So if I want to look at all the commands supplied with the module, what I need to do is, because now the configuration manager module is loaded, I can get all the commands on it. If you see, there are a lot of commands, and it's always a good idea to start with the get commandlets. So we have been talking about the commandlets, right? What are actually commandlets? In PowerShell, we have commandlets instead of the executables are called commandlets. So they follow a particular naming convention, which is nothing but verb and noun. The first part of the commandlet is a verb, which is nothing but an action which you are performing, and the second part is nothing but a singular noun. So suppose if you want to get so how does this verb noun naming convention help us? It helps us because it's easier to remember things. So suppose if I am trying to get process on my machine, the command will be intuitively saying get process, right? So that's where the verb noun naming convention helps the system administrators. You don't have to actually go there and mock up all the commandlets which are being used. You can very well go ahead and use the get command to discover the commands. So what I'm going to do now is on the module configuration manager, just give me the commandlets which have the verb get. So I'll get all the commandlets over there. So let me just check. I hope everything is going okay. Yeah, okay. I thought I might have lost you guys. Okay, so going back, now you see the commandlets are only part of configuration manager, which is evident from the module name column. So these all commandlets reside in the configuration manager module, and I'm only looking for the commandlets which have get as the verb. So you'll see all the get ones. So why do we start with get ones is because get only retrieves your data. So if you are trying out new, I'll suggest you to look at the help of the get commandlets and try those before going there and screwing up anything. And obviously you should be doing, if you are fairly new to configuration manager and PowerShell both, then you should be doing this on a test box, not on a live production machine. So these are the commands which are exposed to us. So how do I go ahead and start using it? That is the question, right? The commandlets are there. You have a config manager console installed on your machine. So the key thing is using the help, and I have so many times seen people stumble on using that. So there's a command called get cm site, which gives nothing but the site information. So the cm is a prefix for all the config manager commandlets. So because that's the standard which Microsoft follows. So like Active Directory commandlets have AD as the prefix to the noun. So what we do is we look at the full help always for the first time. And in configuration manager case, the help is not so helpful. So that is probably, I think, one of the reasons why config manager admins have not fully accepted it. So what it does is it gets one or more configuration manager sites. So if you have one or the configuration, however configuration manager sites, it will return you those. And if you look at these, it accepts the pipeline input by property name. And if you have worked earlier with any other Microsoft product like Exchange and AD, and you are very comfortable with piping things and working around, that's not the case with Configuration Manager. Configuration Manager, most of the commandlets don't support uh, by value for the accept pipeline input. So there you have to be careful. So and that's a key point. So whenever you're using Configuration Manager commands, be careful when you are piping stuff because few things will break. So we have looked at the help. It's not so much helpful. So the only option left is go ahead and try it for ourselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and run it because it's get commandlet, so it won't probably screw my system. So let me go ahead and run it. Oh, there's an error. So this is the error, and actually people get afraid of reading the error. They just cry out for help before even reading the error. So the error says this particular commandlet says this command cannot be run from the current drive. To run this command, you must first connect to a configuration manager drive. So here we come to another important concept of something called PS drives. So once you load the module and you look at the PS drives, so PS drives are nothing but a layer of abstraction on top of hierarchical data. So if you have suppose a registry, that is a sort of a hierarchical data, right? So there's a PS drive layer on top of it. So we can use the item commandlets, which can be used with file system command, file system provider, registry to manage all those. So probably most of you guys will be knowing that. So what I essentially want to say is, if you want to create a registry, you can very well use the same commandlets, the item new -item commandlet, which you can create, which you can use to create a file folder. You can use a very well the same commandlet to create a new registry key. So it sort of hides, sort of abstracts the registry as a drive. So that is the key concept over here. So after you import the configuration manager module, you'll see there'll be a drive popping up over here. The provider is CM site, and the name will be a 3-letter site code. So why do we need to go to this particular drive? So I'll set my location to that drive. In this part, I'm using the full commands today because when I try to run a particular command, the PS drive handles all the communication, and at the backend it's using WMI or or SIM. So whatever it's using those behind the scenes, but the drive handles all the connection to that your particular config manager server, which has the proper SMS provider. It will handle everything. You don't have to worry about anything. So let me go ahead and run the commandlet again. Okay, now it runs. Okay, so I get the few key pieces of information like my site code is this, my site name is this, my server name is this, my time zone info, my version, my build number, my install directory, and all that sort of thing. So that is the key thing over there. You always have to run config manager commandlets from the CM site PS drive. Okay, so the next thing, you should be updating help on a regular interval. Okay, and the third thing I talked about was using implicit remoting. So if you are running server template R2 on top of which your config manager server is installed, and you have local admin privileges on the machine, you'll be able to open a PS session to your config manager server. So I've seen people asking for this scenario in cases where they are using orchestrator to perform few automation on the configuration manager end. So what they need to do is they need to open an PS session. So think of, if guys you haven't heard of PSS, think of it as a SSH. So we are doing SSH to that. Okay, so it opens the session for me. So now I can execute the commands on that particular machine through this session. So suppose I want to know the machine name. So what I can do is tell it, okay, I'm going to use the dollar session minus script block. So whatever is specified inside script block will be executed on the remote machine, not on my local machine. So if you see that, that is the system, that particular thing, and essentially I'm running on the same machine, so you won't probably find the difference. But if you are on a client and you're trying to open the PS session to a remote server, then this will give you the machine name of the remote server, not your client, local client. So once you have that right, so once you have the session open, the first and foremost thing is importing the module. Okay, and if for that particular user you haven't, for the earlier versions of config manager, you haven't accepted that particular trust warning I told you about, right? The module has been signed with a signature and you haven't done that, then you'll have to probably go there for once and accept that, or otherwise use the function which is posted on my blog. So the first thing you do on that session is this: you import the module and you change your set your location to the your CM site provider. So I'm just going to do that. It's copied. Let me copy that. I've copied it. Okay, it's done. Now I can run invoke command on minus session. Give it the variable storing minus script block. Get CM site. So now this runs on the remote machine. But the only thing over here is if you pipe it to get member, these are deserialized objects, so you have to be a little bit careful. It's only a dead object, it's not a live object. So whatever you do, you have to be a little careful by using implicit remoting. Okay. Okay, so moving on. Let me go ahead and check back if people ask. Okay, let me look at the Q&A. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A app on the left hand side of the chat window. You can probably use that. Okay, so moving on, I'll resume. So the first and foremost thing which config manager admins do is managing boundaries, right? So you might be having a lot of boundaries. I remember in my previous project we have a lot of boundaries. So if you do a get CM boundary, you'll get the boundaries in your config manager infrastructure. So if I go over here, you'll see that there's my boundary. So what I can do is I can use PowerShell to create boundaries in bulk, and the command which I'll use is new CM boundary. You have to give it the name, the type. So type can be IP subnet, IP range, active directory site, and IPv6. So you can use those and you can provide the values. So if you don't, if you're really looking forward to trying out these, I'll suggest you to look at the help or the examples and follow those, because everything is documented already there. So what you do is at this particular format, you give it in CR. You have to specify the subnet mask over here and it will take care of everything. So let me just go ahead and run it. So just what I'm going to do is I'm creating a new boundary. So it gets created. Going back to the console, if I refresh it, so the boundary is there. So it's IP subnet boundary. So if you see the subnet ID is populated, right? So, and how do you remove it? It's very simple. If you would have already used PowerShell, then you know that get CM boundary minus name test boundary gives me the object. If I pipe it to remove CM boundary, that does the trick for me. But it will prompt you for the response. If you say yes, it removes it. So if you go back to the console, it's removed. So if you're looking to create or remove boundaries in bulk, and suppose you have a CSV or a text file where you have the boundary names, you can use PowerShell to do that for you. Okay, and okay, the next one is boundaries is a very light topic, and probably I think most of you will be able to figure it out. So in 2012, we have something called boundary groups, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create boundary groups now. because now boundary groups are used for content lookup and site assignment. So let me go ahead and create new one. So my boundary group is created. If you look at here, okay, it's created now. Okay, and moving on, what I want to do is I want to create few collections. So like folks, if you are confused on how I got all these things, you should be reading the help for this. I did nothing. I read the help for this. Okay, I came to know it creates a new boundary, which is evident from the name itself, and I see the syntax of it. So if you look at over here, you'll see that type the type of boundaries you can create are AD site, IP range, IP subnet, and IPv6 prefix. And as the value, you pass in the values based on whatever type you have given. Okay. And if you scroll down, you'll see the examples for it. So if you see, this is an example of how do you create IP subnet boundary. Okay. This is an example of how do you create a AD site boundary. Okay. This is an example of how you create IPv6 prefix boundary. So all the things are already there. Okay. And suppose on your machine, you don't have, suppose you have internet restrictions, you can always go ahead and look at the help, online help. So what I suggest is going to cmdlets boundary and using an online switch. So it will open up the help in your default browser and you can use the help over here. And you need to be careful when looking at it because there are two versions it's targeting. So it's system center 20R2 and system center 2012 SP1. So you have to be if you are working on 2012 SP1, you need to save this one and it will give you the appropriate help. Most probably both of the things will be same, but because of the CU updates, some things might have changed in the PowerShell commands and the help, and hopefully the help has been updated. Okay, so in configuration, you don't have to entirely rely on the help. You will have to experiment a bit on your own also. So be ready for that. Okay, so how do you create collections? So if I move to SSN and compliance on the bar, I have these device collections, right? So I have created few collections. So what I'll be showing you is how to remove. Suppose in a bulk, I want to remove all the collections which start with the name DEX. Okay, so what I want to do is I'll be removing those and I want to create those, right? So how do you go and use the get command for that? So if you do this get cm command and you do minus now, you always know that it starts with cm, right? All the configuration manager commands. So after this, you can do a star so that it matches everything, and this. And at the end, tell no need of worry. So you'll see that okay, all the things have collection in it. So what you're looking at creating a new collection, right? So you can further refine this by using at the end specifying the verb as new. Okay, so here I see this new CM device collection and there's new CM user collection. So I'll be just going ahead and creating a new CM device collection. So what I'll do is this, and in PowerShell version 3, there's a switch called show window, which opens the help in a new window so that you can simultaneously work also and read the help also. So if you look at this, it will give you the new CM device collection. Commander creates a collection based on a specific limiting collection. So the important thing is you need to always specify your name because that's a mandatory parameter and a minus limiting collection ID. So what I mean by mandatory is if I do this CM device collection, I just go ahead and run it. It will prompt me for the name of the collection. Okay, so let me just give this. And it will always ask me for the limiting collection name. So I'm going to tell all systems. So it creates a new collection for me. If I go to the console and do a refresh, you see that collection is over here. So the two key pieces of information required to create a collection is the name and the limiting collection name. Because in ConfigMgr 2012, you should always be your collection should always be limited to some collection. So that is how you create the collection as easy as it goes. And suppose if you're looking at creating some 20-40 collections, and compared to the person who is doing it manually, if you know a little bit of PowerShell, and if you are willing to read the help, you'll be able to figure it out. Okay, collections are done. Okay, so now moving on, I'm going to create a test collection called name test collection, and then I'm going to add my exchange machine on it. So I'll be adding a direct membership rule. Okay, so I'll just do this. Okay, I'll be sharing the code with you. You don't have to worry. I'll probably post it somewhere on the GitHub or on my blog. Okay, already exists. I think already there's a collection with that name. Okay, I see already. Let me go ahead and remove it just for the sake of the demo. I think I tried it last night. Okay, let me clear the screen and paste it again. So new CM device collection will create the new test collection. It will limit the collection to all systems, and then I'm piping it to T object, which will store it in a variable for me. Why I use T object? Because I wanted you to view this particular output as well, store it in a variable. So once I have that thing in test collection, so I'll use add CM device collection direct membership rule. So which you would have figured out what it does right now is it will add a direct membership rule to your device collection. I'm giving the collection as the variable which is here, which stores nothing but the collection which I just created, and the resource as in the parentheses I have put get CM device minus name exch, which is my exchange server. And I'll show you that if you go to my devices, I have that already discovered. The SSM client is not installed on any of it right now. I'm going to go ahead and add that particular device collection direct membership rule. So it's done. What I'll do is verify that, go back here, let it. So you'll often find that whenever you perform steps on the PowerShell, they might not reflect on the console immediately. So what I do is I go to some other window bar and I'll come back, and here it goes, it reflects. So you can right click on the collection properties and verify the membership rule is created. And if you see, it's a direct. Okay. So another way is you can use query membership rule. So I already have a tool made for that, and I'll probably better if I use that, because I don't remember the whole syntax of the query and all that stuff. So what I have here is the tool, and I give it my SSM server name, and I do a test SMS connection. My action button gets activated. I tell okay, add name to queries. Before that, what I can do a sync collection list, because I remove most of the collections. So I see my test collection over here. What I do is I double click on it. It gets selected. I tell add name to the query. I say add dex dc and dex SCCM, and you don't have to worry about the spaces. The tool handles it. And suppose I give a random name which is not there in my domain. So what it will do, it will automatically take care of it. So let it run it for a while, and background you'll see what it's doing. Its string collection is not in the ready state. It's going to sleep. Okay, came back. It's doing its magic. And what it will do is, what it does actually is it gets a copy of the query, and it modifies it locally and then pushes it back, and add as an extra touch to the tool. After it is done, it will look at the machine names you have specified, and it will do a machine policy refresh on these two machines, whichever are there in that, and it will look at the key config manager related services, if they are running it or not, and it will put them to running or automatic status for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So let's wait for it to complete. I think it's done. So if I go to this text collection and I do a refresh again, I see okay, those two machines reflecting, right? And if you look the properties, it will add a new query rule to it. This is the automatic query rule. If you're going to look at it, you can take a look at it. and that tool is entirely using PowerShell with WMI. So that is a topic for another hangout. So where we'll be calling my friend Stefan, who works with WMI extensively. So he'll be giving you another hangout session on introduction to WMI and how to create classes and all sort of WMI stuff. So moving on, I'll close my tool. So if you haven't checked it out, you can check it out at my blog. So that's a tool which we have been using previously in our project, but that one wasn't as open as it is. Like it had a lot of hard coding, etc. And we use Primal Forms community edition for that one, but this one is using WPF entirely. So now we have looked at how to manage collections also, right? So now another thing, the most important thing is when you create collections, right? Everything will, if you create a collection, it will directly come to your root node of your device collections. But in 2012, we have something called folders, because in 2012 you cannot have a empty collection anymore. Like you cannot have a nested collection like in SSM 2007, where you can have a nested an empty collection, and beneath that you can have further sub collections. That is not supported anymore. So what we do instead is we create folders. So that essentially makes sense because it's for better organizing things, right? So how do we create collections in PowerShell? So the easiest way of doing that is using the PS provider. So right now, if you look at this, I'm at the my three-letter site code location. Okay, what happens if I do a get child item is, okay, so here where the advantage of PS provider comes in, you'll see this, right? Application, boot, image, all those things, and at the end you'll see there's a device collection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my directory. You can very well use CD as well. That's nothing but a alias or sort of a nickname for set location. If you see this, now it will show you this. And if you can do LSDI or whatever you feel like, it will give you, if you see, it's giving you a name test. And if you go there and look at the console, test is nothing but a folder. Right? So it has a collection inside it. So what you can do is, if you're looking to create things, right, you can use new item, which is the same command which you'll use on a normal file system to create a file or a folder. So what I give is name, okay, testing. Yeah, now if I do ls, I see two things, but I don't see anything over here. So what I do is do F5 and it reflects. So it's as easy as it becomes. You just have to do a new item and the folder gets populated there. And if you are looking to remove it, first of all, the collection should be empty. So right now it doesn't support recurse operation where you it just removes everything inside it. So if you try to remove test, its tell folder is not empty, but if you try to remove testing, it will work because that one is empty. Okay. And if you go back here, do F5, it reflects immediately. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in my active directory, I have what you call corp dex. Inside that, I have server 2012, server 2008, and I have appropriate. I want to replicate that particular thing over here also. So what I'll do is I'll go to my PS provider, and I'll go ahead and create all the things I want. Okay, now what I've done is if I press F5, I've created a corpdex folder. Inside that, there's a delete me server 2008, server 2012. And inside server 2008, I'll create a collection called server 2008. Server 2012, I'll create a collection containing server 2012, and where I can add all the server 2012 machines in my domain, and in server 2008, all the 2008 machines. So how do I do that is first new item I already showed you. So I'm going to use another module called Active Directory. So I really wanted to show you the PS provider and how you can use PS providers for that. So let me go ahead and open another console. Okay, I'm importing the module for Active Directory. So while it does, let me check if there are any questions. Okay. So Amarpal is asking how to check the list of boundary name that already exists in SSM using shell. So how to check the, so you do, okay. Yeah, right now you have to give the boundary name explicitly to it, but there's a way if you actually, uh, okay, I wasn't really thinking of going to the WMF details, but there's a WMF class. If you query that one, you will get all the things. So being a config manager admin, you should be you should be ready to work with commandlets and wherever necessary work with the WMI classes also. Okay, so that is the thing. And probably after Stefan's session, I can probably check that. I can probably let you know how to do that. Okay, the second one is, can we identify and fix boundary conflict issues using shell? Yeah, you can do that. Uh, actually, the logic will be yours, and that's actually a great question. That's a good question. Like we can probably use PowerShell over there, and we can work on that on the next community meeting if you like, Amarpal. Yeah, that is a valid use case. And thanks for asking that question. That can be done, but you'll have to write your own logic, like where you compare stuff and do all the things. So that can be done. And I posted a script on TechNet, which will give you the range of IP addresses. Yeah, I can probably use that one. So I'll make a note of this question somewhere so that I can work on it. Okay, that's a good question. Okay. Okay, how can we check list of collections that are maintained window applied using shell? Another good question, Amarpal. So I think someone already asked this question in the config manager group, and someone replied like try to use VB script. So probably, in my opinion, that's a overkill because you don't need to use VB script. So we have a commandlet called. So how do you discover that, right? So get command. I didn't knew that the command existed. So what I did is I went over here and I did maintenance. If I can spell it right. Okay, on the module configuration manager. So here you go. So if you have a get maintenance window, you'll be able to retrieve that. You just have to specify the collection ID for that. Okay, and you can remove it. You can set it. You can create a new maintenance window. So look at the possibilities at what you can achieve if you know PowerShell. And suppose you have to set a specific maintenance window on some 200 collections, and you have a CSV. So you can what you can do is quickly thinking import CSV, write a script which takes that CSV as the input and work out your magic. So that's actually what everyone is evolving towards is, right? Automation. You would have heard the word you would have heard the term called DevOps. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, that's actually what DevOps is, where the gap is being bridged up between the developer and the operations guys. And PowerShell is a DevOps language, guys. You don't have to write 1,000 lines of code to just create a folder or to just query maintenance window on a collection. The commandlets are already there for you. They give you object output. You can very well go ahead and write in your own logic based on your environment, on your needs, and you will be a superstar in your config manager team. So if you don't believe me, you can ask the exchange guys. Well, no, not exchange guys, because I think everyone in exchange now knows PowerShell. And if you are exchange guy and if you don't know PowerShell, you are missing out on a lot. And that will be the case with config manager, system center, because PowerShell is everywhere right now. Okay, so enough of the selling part. So what I was showing you was Active Directory. In Active Directory we have when you import the module for Active Directory, it does things very similar to the configuration manager commandlet. It maps a PS drive. So if you see here, there's a AD drive, which is nothing but a mapping to your Active Directory infrastructure. So what you can do is you can, let me go back. I want to show you one thing. If you do ls here, this is your domain right here, your configuration, your schema, and all that stuff. So if I want to go inside my domain, and you need to use my distinguished name because that's how everything is identified in Active Directory. I use this, and if I do ls, you'll see I can see my organization units, my containers, my all those stuff, and I see people like asking for I wanted to create a report of all the users in a particular OU. How do I do that? You can just go to the CD on that particular thing. Suppose you are looking at what you call exchange users. I have a lot of users over here, so I'll just go inside to ls. It shows another organization unit. Suppose I want to look at the this particular OU. So I'll just go inside that and I'll do ls. So I'll get all the users inside it. So here goes my report for all the users in that particular OU. You don't have to like people don't actually use PS drives that much, but they are really helpful if you're looking to do some small stuff like creating like getting the information of all these OU and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to show you that I have a OU called Corp Text. This is my OU right here. So I'm going to go inside it. Okay, I'm going to go inside right. So I go inside it and I have two organization units. So what I've done is I've stored them in these two things in a variable called childs. I haven't done that. So this is where I'm doing that. I'm storing that in my variable. Dollar childs will have that because I'm going to reuse this particular key piece of information to create the folders. So here I'll again come back to my my FCM site drive and I'll use that childs. And I told you, right, most of the things don't work as expected in pipeline. So I had to use for each because new CMDIs every time complained that comment was empty or some that sort. So this one liner will create the exact same structure which I have in my Active Directory for me. Let me go ahead and run it rather than just doing things. So let me just check if CM, okay, it's already there. Okay, so what it'll do is it'll go ahead and create collections, appropriate Server 2008 collection over there and Server 2012 collection over there. I don't have that, just run it. I can copy it and paste it. So it's loading my Active Directory module for me. And let it complete. Okay, so it did everything. So if I move back to over here, and if I did a refresh, probably, so I see Server 2008, Server 2012, right? And you would have seen scripts telling which copy the OU structure and all that, and they use a lot of commandlets. But you can probably go there and leverage your PS drives in that sort. Okay, so that is done. So what I'm going to do is now create a collection, a sample MSI collection, because that one is the easiest and I only have to run like 2 commandlets for doing that. So what I'm going to do now is I have a 7-zip MSI already located in this location. So I'm just going to go ahead and create it. So what I do is I just first create a new CM application using the new CM application command. After that, I'll add a deployment type to it, which is nothing but install. I'll just give the path to my MSI and tell it's MSI installer, and I'll tell it install for system. Okay, and after that, I'll distribute the content to my distribution, my DP group. Okay, and after that, I'll deploy the app to a particular collection. So that is actually very similar to going over here on the software library, going to application management, applications. Okay, doing a right click, create application, all that stuff, which I think you might already be familiar with it. Going here, giving my MSI, doing next, that you had been doing this for a while. So it tells you the publisher is not verified. You just say yes, it creates something for you, do a next, it creates it, now it will do a next, it will create something for you. right? So it creates an application for you. So what instead of we are going to do is use PowerShell for entirely this, and you'll see that things with PowerShell are a little bit faster than the GUI. If this could complete, I could go ahead and show you the commandlet in action. Okay, in the meantime, I don't work with ConfigMgr anymore, but when I did, I used to do a lot of posts around it, and probably sometime I'll look. I have few things incomplete, and I'll probably try to complete those as well. So what I thought was getting started. I thought of doing a getting started series. We'd only have around 4 posts in it, and earlier I was doing a random post on config manager and PowerShell. So there nothing was organized, but these are those posts. So I'll probably if I get time from my work, I'll try to draft few new posts on around config manager and post them. Okay. So most of the stuff which I showed you already about getting started, creating boundaries, creating folders, you can find it on the links. Okay, and my initial idea was when I was learning config manager 2012 to do everything in configuration manager with PowerShell, and I think that has paid off really well. So everything gets created, right? So you get a deployment type, all that stuff. We go ahead and remove that. Let us do that with PowerShell, because doing it with GUI is too mainstream now. Everybody does that, right? So let me run these two commands. It creates the application object for me. Then I add a deployment type to it. I just copy it and paste it. Here it goes. So I'm adding the deployment type now. And if you go back, do a refresh, sometimes it doesn't work. You have to change. Come back, 7-zip is there. The deployment type is also there. So suppose you have some around 200 MSIs, and you get a deadline to complete it in another 15 or 1 month. You can probably use PowerShell to go there and do stuff for you. Think of creating 200 setting up 200 application configuration manager in just what about say 1 hour. So but probably if your requirements are different, then you'll have to twist the logic as per it. Now you can start distributing the content using start cm content distribution. Okay, so what it will do, it will start distributing content to that. But before that, let me check if I have the DP added to my boundary group. So right now, no DPs. This distribution point groups. I don't have a distribution point group. So what I'll do is create a group this way, or we can use PowerShell for this also. So for PowerShell, we have new cm distribution point group minus name. Let me check the name I was giving there. Minus description, what if come from verbose, let's do verbose. So it creates a DP group for me. If I go back, no need of doing this now. So it created a DP group for me. If it could select. Now I need to add distribution points to it, right? So how do I do that? I already remember the commands, but you can always go ahead and see for yourself. Minus noun, cm star distribution star minus verb. I'm going to add something, so I know, okay, add will be the verb. So if you see add cm distribution point to group, so from the name itself will come to know, okay, I'm going probably I'll have to use this. Okay, so distribution point name I'll have to give. Okay, the distribution point name is, I go to distribution points. This is my distribution point name. So what I'll do is get cm distribution point. It will give me my distribution point name. Okay, I don't see the name. So let us just go ahead and read the help for this one because it gives you more idea. So these are data sets in which you can use it. Okay, you pass a distribution point as an object to it, or you can pass the name of it. Okay, and you tell the distribution point group name as well. So after you have experienced like worked a lot with PowerShell commandlets, you'll come to know like you don't have to read the full help. You'll get the hang of it. DP, let me store it in a DP variable. So my DP variable has my distribution point in it. Now I'm going to add some distribution point. If I could write it correct, type it correctly, distribution point to group minus distribution point. Here I can specify my DP minus my distribution point group name is next lab group. Thanks to Verbose is already done for us. So it'll add, it will not give you, if it doesn't give you anything back, that means probably it was successful. So you see the member count has increased to 1. So now I can start distributing the content to that particular distribution point group. I'll run it. Okay, sorry, I wasn't doing anything over here. So I'll copy it and paste it over here because that's where I'm doing all my stuff. So if you go back to the your software library, applications, okay, sorry, monitoring, and your distribution status, your content status, you'll see 7-zip has been distributed to that particular distribution point group. Coming back, now another task is we want to deploy it to my collection called server 2012. Okay, my server 2012 collection has 0 members right now. So what I'm going to do is add few collections to it using my tool. Okay, that happens sometimes. So let it restart. So I do a test connection, I do a add, and I don't see server 2008 in R2, so I'll do a sync. So those start showing up here. Do that. Or you can probably put these in a text files over somewhere and you can do a browse. So I think I already had those. So if you browse it, it will automatically populate all the machines in there. You do a add. Let's wait for it to complete. Sometimes the collection is not in the ready state, so it looks for a key piece of attribute telling is it ready. So when it's ready to make the changes, it goes, it enters the changes. Goes in a moment. In the meantime, I'll look at the questions. Yep. Okay. Amardeep's another question. Can we get a list of packages that are correct and validated in SCCM? Yes, Amarpal, we can do that. But for that, we again have to use WMA. So there's a method on it which verifies the integrity of the package. And you can probably script the logic where the package, if it is corrupted, try redistributing it. So that can be done. I've seen people do that. Okay. So if you, yeah, that is another good question. I'll make a note of it and try to post, or I'll give you a detailed partial solution for that one also. So some very good questions by Amarpal. I think he has been missing PowerShell module for a long period. Okay, if I go ahead and refresh over here, it doesn't work sometimes. I have to go back to there, come back. Okay, now I see the member count has increased. Okay, so now once I have added the appropriate machines to the collection, if you see on the log side, it will tell, okay, this machine is online, doing all that sort of stuff. And it will give you a warning telling the machine the SSM client is not installed. Okay, I left the part raise a ticket to install it because that was from my previous project where we had to raise a ticket whenever there is not a client installed on it. So that's it because the SSM client field says no over here. So moving on, once the machines are added to the appropriate collection, time to go ahead and do a mapping to our application and the collection. So for that, we do use start CM application deployment. It will start deploying apps to all those to all the collection names you specify. I'm just going to do it, run it. So it'll okay again the same problem. I'll copy it, run it on the wrong machine. So I'm just going to do this. Now the members of that particular collection doesn't have SSM client on it, so it probably won't work. But uh, in 2012, there is something called channel notification, client notification channel, which has been started. So what it does is, if you go to the console, right, to refresh machine policy on a machine, you don't have to hurry up. No, I don't see. Okay, let me go back. I think I saw it somewhere. You can refresh machine policy using the channel. Okay, okay. I'm not sorry, I'm not familiar where to do it in the console, but I know the commandlet for that. So there's the commandlet invoke CM client notification, where it doesn't use WMA to refresh machine request a machine policy refresh on a client. What it does is it uses HTTP for communicating to the clients and telling them, okay, guys, you'll probably want to do a machine policy refresh because something has changed on the console server. So in this, the cool thing about this is you can give an entire collection name and it will do a machine policy refresh on all the members of that particular collection. And you don't have to worry about the network because it throttles the network usage for you. So all the machines won't, like suppose you have 500 machines, each of 500 won't be doing a machine policy refresh simultaneously. It will throttle it, so you don't have to worry about that. So that is the client channel notification which has been started in Configuration Manager 2012. So that's a new piece of technology which has evolved because sometimes the you might not be having the WMA access on the local end user machine. So to get around those use cases, Configuration Manager team has started this the client channel notification. So that's it. So what we looked at is creating boundaries, removing boundaries, creating boundary groups, creating distribution point groups, adding distribution points to that particular distribution point group, creating a application, creating a device collection, adding members to it using device collection membership rule or a query based membership rule, creating folders for better organization of things, and finally, when the collection is ready, your application is ready, going ahead and deploying those to that particular collection. So that's basically the tip of the iceberg. And there are not many things you can do with configuration manager. Sadly, I'm not with the configuration manager. I'm not working with the product anymore. But whenever I have spare time, I do stuff on my Azure lab. So that's it. So guys, if you have any more questions, I'll stop my screen share. Okay, and if you have any more questions, you can probably ask in the PowerShell Bangalore user group Facebook link. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and put that over here. Okay, let me just go to the Facebook and add the link and put it in the chat. So Okay, guys, I got disconnected. So probably in next hangout, we'll ask Stefan, who lives in Switzerland, to give a session on WMI and PowerShell. So right now, what you can do is you can get started with using the configuration manager commandlets, and you'll see that most of the commandlets have few limitations, right? Like the one asked by Amarpal, where you wanted to get all the maintenance windows on a connection. So in that cases, until and unless you know the connection ID, what you have to do is you have to look at each of the collections and get a list of the collection and pipe those to the commandlet. So you can probably go ahead and start playing with the configuration manager commandlets, and you can start asking questions on the PSBUG group at Facebook. So I'll probably try to reply in the shortest time uh, available. So we can do that. And next, moving on, we'll have a session on partial plus WMA by Stefan. And then moving on, we'll have another session. Probably I can ask Nikolaj or someone to come and show you how to do things the harder way using the SMS provider. Because if you want to use SMS provider, you need to have a solid understanding of WMA and how to use that with PowerShell. And once you have best, like you have both the ways ready of managing configuration manager, the commandlets and the WMI way, then you can probably choose the best one which suits your need. So WMI I've seen is probably a bit efficient because you can control a lot of things over there. But if you are just starting up, I'll suggest you to go ahead with the configuration manager command. And virtually everything you can do in the console can be done through PowerShell and WMI and the commandlets. So that's it for today, folks. Have a great day ahead. And thanks to all the viewers over here. And we can probably have another session if you want, where we can discuss scenarios which you are trying to automate. Like Amarpal had so many scenarios which you wanted to automate, right? We can have a hangout, not a public hangout, but a private hangout where we can discuss stuff on how to achieve those sort of automation. I have a lab and we can probably come up and I can share my screen, give you the control, and we can try to recreate these scenarios to automate. So that's it, folks. Have a good day. I have to read the PowerShell book given to me by Ravi sir. It's looking good. So PowerShell all the way. Thanks everyone.